This year, having all the edible flowers in the garden is a new experience for me, as I hope it is for you. This is something that I must admit that I've not had a lot of experience doing or eating, so it's been a lot of fun for me and my family as we work through the process of trying to find some things to do with some of the flowers that have been grown out there. What we're working with today are the little marigolds that have been grown. Now you notice that we have the lemon and the tangerine varieties out here, and they do have a little bit different flavor and a little bit different smell to them, so you may, if you're really a connoisseur, not want to mix them. What I'm going to do for today, I have mixed them. Now, most varieties of marigolds would be edible from the standpoint that they're not poisonous. However, they don't taste very good. This is one of the few varieties that we do recommend eating, so that this would be the one that you'd want to choose. Now on this, even on this type, you don't want to eat the stems or the foliage. So what I've done with the recipe today is go through one at a time and pull off all the little petals for the recipe I'm working on. Now what I'm going to try and do for you today is something called Marigold Soup, and this is one that my husband actually approved of, so it must be pretty good. All right, we're going to start with 4 cups of chicken broth, and you can either use canned or use your own. Now the recipe also calls for 2 teaspoons of salt. Now wanting to cut back on salt, this is one of the things I did do. I've used a reduced sodium chicken broth, but I've also cut back to 1/2 teaspoon of salt. We also have 1/4 teaspoon of ground pepper and a pinch of cloves. Then we have, out of the garden also, we have a little bit of fresh oregano. Now this is about 1/4 teaspoon to 1/2 teaspoon, depending on how much you like it. Now if you were going to use dried oregano, you would use less. If you're going to use the fresh, as we did here today, you want to make sure that the leaves are in good condition, that you don't have any damage from insects or dirt. You want to rinse them lightly with water. If you're not going to use them right away, you can wrap them up in a paper towel and then put that in a plastic bag and put them in the refrigerator for a few days. But this does work really nice. It's got a good strong flavor. And if you've got a chance to use some of that, I'd really encourage you to. Now also in here we're going to use about 1 teaspoon of fresh parsley. And we'll sprinkle that in. This is then going to go on the stove, and it's going to cook at a simmer, bring it to a boil, and reduce it to a simmer, and let it do so for about 30 minutes to concentrate it a little bit and give the flavors a little bit of a chance to blend before we add the flowers and the potatoes to that. While the marigold stock is getting blended together, I wanted to talk to you also about edible chrysanthemums. If you can see here, these are also called shongiku, and these are the foliage from them. Now normally you would harvest the foliage when the plant is about 4 to 6 inches high. It would be then used similar to the way you would use any other kind of greens as far as boiling it down. It might take a little bit longer than spinach, but it doesn't take a long time to cook. It's got a piquant flavor and is very good. However, we didn't harvest them until they were substantially taller than that, and just like a lot of other greens, when they get bigger they get bitter and they tend to get tougher, so that I'm not going to try and prepare these for you today. But if you do want to do them, you need to harvest them when they're very young and very small. We did try harvesting side shoots, and that didn't work very well either. They still had the strong flavor that we didn't like very well. Now, on these flowers, however, at this point in time, the other alternative is to let the flowers go ahead and come to a bloom. Once again, if you remove the stem from this flower, the flower itself then becomes edible and can be used as a garnish, as we've done over here on this salad. Now, we talked a couple of weeks ago about using flowers, and I reminded you not to use something that's got a real strong flavor if you're using it in something that you're going to want to eat, because it will cover the flavor of the flower itself. So that use a very mild type of dressing, use an oil and vinegar with just a little bit of an herb in it. You could actually blend in some of the lemon flavored marigolds, which would give it a real nice taste as well and give it a little bit of a lemon scent to it while you ate that. Once the potatoes are tender, your soup is ready. You'll notice that in addition to the potatoes getting tender, the flowers have also softened substantially. They give a lot of nice fragrance to the soup. It's not a real thick, traditional type of potato soup, but the flowers have colored the potatoes a little bit yellow. And we have the other herbs in there that also add fragrance. This isn't quite as much yellowing as you might get from turmeric, and definitely not quite the same effect you get from saffron, but it's really nice. Now to this you can add a few croutons and maybe a few of your flowers floating in the soup. Combine that with your salad and a loaf of bread, and you've got a really nice meal. For Oklahoma Gardening, this is Barbara Brown.